Let's do this. All right, so welcome to Ninja Trading. So today we're going over, spending the first 5 minutes going over the state of Bitcoin and where we're going next. Then we'll go over a little bit of gold and that massive drop that we had. And last but not least, we'll go over a little bit of practice on my support and resistance methods. So first things first. Okay, so this is what happened with what's going on with Bitcoin so far. So we're in this massive range. Obviously the lows being, actually let's adjust it here. So the lows being the bottom of that dump and then the high being the high of that bounce. If you want to shrink it down, this is really where we've been trading. So, everybody's getting bullish up here, but there's no reason to be while we're still range bound. So if you guys have watched my volume theory video, by the way, on a quick side note, you guys see this cup? It says devoted, involved, loving father.
Oh.
So sorry. So that's the Christian version of the DILF cup. Anyways, okay. So we broke above value area high, and we spent a couple of days above it, but we never really took off from here. This was about a day and a half worth of price action. So usually, just like back here, right? If you're above value area high of the entire range and you don't really start getting acceptance and going higher, you come back into the value area. And we got some, so at the time it was actually a little bit lower, so the value area high was about right here when we were trading. But we actually got a few perfect back tests into the value area high before coming down. And this right here, so this was the short. We were able to catch a nice little short scalp right here. So we had the golden pocket plus the local range. That was the value area high. So a lot of things lining up. That was a pretty easy short right there. So one thing that I do want to point out, hold on, I'm seeing. Pause. Okay, so yesterday I was talking about, so we were down here. This next part, if you guys don't understand this chart, don't worry, but I was calling out that there's a row of single prints. So if you guys can see, that's what this is, and including the buying tail, right? We stopped like halfway in between the single prints, and there was not a lot of conviction going up. And I was saying there's a very high chance for single prints to get filled once you come into single prints, which you guys don't need to understand these charts, but you guys can post pictures of this to sound really smart. It's kind of fun. But look at that. Look where we found support, like to the dollar. We filled all the single prints and found support to the dollar. So this is why after I got out of my long here, I wasn't looking to long again as we were drifting up, because usually when we come into the single prints, we tend to fill them. And we also have more single prints below to 36.5. So that's the current state of Bitcoin. So what I think is going to happen next, I think it's very likely. So I just posted this trade. I think it's very likely we come and test this SR. This could be it right here, but let me check. No, I don't think the buying is done. So we could come and test this SR right here. We do have the 0.5 fib, and we do have the golden pocket, which I would be looking to trade the golden pocket. This is also the value area low of the previous range. So if we don't get acceptance into this range, this would actually be a really good short, probably all the way down to 36K. So so I did post also in the group too a couple of long trades. This one is a little bit sketch. I would say in terms of probability, this one's probably, I would say, a 60% probability of working out, this long trade right here. But where's my other one? This long trade, I definitely do enjoy, or I definitely do think would have a high probability. We have a lot of support down here. So if we make it down here, this whole range, I would say this could literally be the, so this is the range low again, or the value area low. So if you guys have watched the volume videos, you know, Bitcoin likes to go from value area low to value area high. And if it gets accepted back in, it's likely to visit the other side, right? So it got accepted back into the value area high, so it's very likely to visit the value area low. So this is the big long that I'm looking for. This for me would be a pretty big position right here. So the chart's posted. You guys can find it. It's the buy zones between 34.4 and 34.9. So any questions on Bitcoin and where we are right now? Does all that make sense? No? Okay, good. So you guys ready for gold? Um,
Wait, so really quick,
yeah.
are we gonna wait for that golden pocket, or you said that it might be stuck around the 38 one?
I am personally waiting for the golden pocket. Um, so here's the thing. Can this trade work out right here as a SR flip? Yes, but do I love the probability of this working out? No. This is probably a 50-50 trade where we are right now. The other the other thing which I might catch on stream too is if we get a giant wick right here. So if we all of a sudden we start floating around here and we get an attempt and there's a lot of buying, so I'll be able to see that right here. So if we get a lot of longs opening up and coming up, um, and it gets rejected on a long wick, I would be comfortable taking that down. So just like right here, I started this before recording. So this is volume profile, which I will make a whole video teaching this. But essentially, this is looking at the longs and shorts opening up. So shorts are sells, longs are buys. And you have this price. So we were drifting down all morning. And you had price attempt to go down. And you had a lot of sells right here at the bottom. And then price got pushed right back up and the candle closed green. So that's a sign that a lot of short orders or sell orders got absorbed by bigger long orders, and there's more buying interest. And this was the market makers letting price come down, fill the liquidity, and go back up. That's why while we're drifting around right here, I posted that short trade because I knew there was a high probability of Bitcoin coming up. So if this does one of these in reverse and it doesn't quite reach the golden pocket, then I'll be comfortable taking it down. Like this right here, if you wanted to scalp long, this was a decent scalp long range after you saw this and it came back down. This was probably actually, what's funny is this is probably the golden pocket of this retrace right here. So that was a good scalp long. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, the golden pocket. So if you look at this little green counter right here came down, golden pocket caught it, right back up. Alrighty, who's ready for some gold action?
Holla.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Is that Garrison? Okay, so the community asked for gold and we delivered. So I'll just show you guys this as proof. By the way, apparently the golden pocket works in gold. That's pretty punny. You guys can laugh at my dad jokes. So okay, but on a serious note, so this is the trade that I posted for gold. So this was overall looking pretty bearish, and I'll tell you guys why in a second. But this was what I was looking for this was actually on the daily, and I believe, where is my gold chart? There it is. Okay, this is so messy. On the 15-minute. Okay, so we were down here. So I believe that this little pump is where I said it was looking pretty bearish. And just locally, I mean, I won't go over RSI too much. So I use a lot of RSI and Stokes in like stocks or I guess gold because I don't have access to volume profiles like this. So this is the second best. So if you guys study RSI or Stokes, just make sure that you only use it based on divergences, because like people that on YouTube's like with the meme saying, "Oh, this is overbought or oversold," that method doesn't work. You have to look for divergences. So if you look at, I mean, just these 2 points right here, you this was when I was saying. Actually, you guys can check the timestamps. This right here is when I was saying gold was looking pretty bad. But look at this. So you have a massive bearish divergence. You have a much lower high, and you have a higher high right here. It's from this point to this point too. You have a higher high on the Stokes and the RSI, and you have a lower high in price action. So this was looking pretty darn bearish. Let me just pull my Bitcoin chart back up so I can keep an eye on it. Over to the other screen. So locally, we were getting bearish divergence, and I was saying to the moon because I own some gold. But on a real note, it looks like it wants to come down for a retrace, right? So let me go over higher term time frame stuff, and a lot of this will make sense. Did I clone that? So let me just delete this, delete everything. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but, and you guys would know this a lot better than I do because I don't really trade gold. I just look at the charts. Was there a bullish sentiment in the market like a couple of days ago, beginning this week?
I don't know about the market, but a lot of the educators were talking about how it's going to sell down. So that
Were
was
they?
kind of out there.
Okay, because I mean, some of the people that I talked to were pretty bullish on gold, and I feel like, I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like the market sentiment was pretty bullish towards gold, right? So, a couple of things here. I'll tell you guys how to mark out these levels, which is the part 2 of this session. So I'll teach you guys how to mark out levels, and this is very powerful. So we have this yearly level, which is the annual close. So if you look at, so this is where we close right here about 2021, right? So here's the problem that gold ran into. So you had this, you initially cleared the yearly level, but if you look at it on the 1 year, it just whipped through it, right? So on these higher term time frames, you have to look at a higher term time frame perspective. So it did clear it by a little bit, but if you look at the overall picture, it rejected from the yearly level pretty well right here. What was this white line? Oh, there was something else on this too. So if you look at the bigger picture, we had this top from 2011 that acted as resistance as well. So there was 2 really big resistances that caught gold right around this 1900 level, which is the yearly close, and the support top from 2011. So I'll go into explaining how to find these, but essentially these closes, why they work so well is, if you guys have seen my market psychology video, all markets are controlled by the bigger players, right? The market makers. And most of the time, market makers, they use a lot of bots and algos. And on these closes and Fibonacci levels, which is why Fibonacci levels work so well, on these closes, a lot of these bots and algos will just blindly buy or sell those levels when they hit them, which is why you get such a great reaction off of them. So look at this. This previous weekly level, when it came back and back tested, that was the absolute high, almost to the dollar right there, right? So this was the overall big picture of gold. So you had a massive pump for a couple of years. You had this little COVID sell-off, and then you had another pretty massive pump. And from a weekly perspective, this looks like a blow-off top. So, by the way, if a lot of these things don't make sense, that's okay. But just know that eventually all of this is coming education-wise. So you'll be able to spot this on your own. Okay. So we had the yearly close. By the way, look at this weekly close, caught this to a T, right? So this brings us to the local price action. So we actually found support off of another previous yearly close. Look at that, to the dollar. Okay, so we're ranging between these 2 yearly closes. Okay. Came back up, pretty much caught the yearly close. But on a higher term time frame, look at this massive divergence it's building. So from this point to this point, okay, we have a much higher high in RSI and Stokes from this point to this point, but look at it, we have a much lower high from this point to this point in price action. So that's massive bearish divergence on a weekly time frame. You can find this on the daily time frame as well, but obviously weekly is more powerful than the daily. So look at this, you have a higher high in Stokes and RSI between these 2 points, and you have a lower high in price action, much lower. From this point to this point too, you have a higher high, or actually this is roughly the same high, but much lower high. So what that means is, so price is being pushed up on increasing, so it's taking a lot more, so it's taking much higher momentum and much higher strength to push price to a lower point than before. So if you want to think about this logically, so the RSI is the relative strength and the Stokes is momentum, right? So if you want to think about this, it took, so the bulls or the buyers, they were buying this on increasing strength and increasing momentum than what we saw from before, and price got stuck at a lower level. So it took more effort to push price to a lower level, which is why there's a bearish divergence, which is why price went down overall. So I don't know if that, does that make sense on the divergences?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have this macro view, bearish divergence, and then if you want to zoom in to this, okay, so locally we were in this pump and we were coming down. So if you want to look at this, even on the 15-minute, so we had a couple of drives of bearish divergence. So we had a lower high in price than here, and we had a higher high in Stokes and RSI from this point to this point. Same with, you can look at this point and this point. So these are all higher highs than what we have right here, and we formed a lower series of lower highs, and this right here was that massive rejection right here. And the way that I pulled this is why I use volume so much. So if you look at the range volume, okay, you had the point of control, which would act as resistance. And here's the thing that I love that I found. So if you guys know me, I use the golden pocket so much in Bitcoin, but it seems to work in gold as well too. So for me, this was at least a, so there's a couple of entries right here. So this was at least worth a short scalp. And so here's the thing, right? Did I know it was gonna dump? Oh, I just messed up that level. Okay. Did I know it was gonna dump this hard and this fast? No, but did I know that this was at least worth a scalp? Absolutely. So here's my methods, right? A lot of times scalps turn into swings. So my method is you get into a position and you take profits, make it risk free, and sometimes it just runs, just like the Bitcoin position from earlier. So speaking of Bitcoin, let's check on that real quick because we have a rejection. Let's see here. I think it's going to retrace and then come back for another try. Could be wrong, but if we miss that trade, I'd rather what's it called? I'd rather catch the better long trades down below. Let me pause this real quick. So what I was saying is a lot of these entries are scalp entries and they turn into free trades and they just absolutely run. But so I hope this little entry up here makes absolute sense, because you also had the point of control up here, which was another strong resistance point. So you could have had a very well-defined, and actually at the time I would have scalped it to the bottom and then let the rest run. So you had a very defined risk to reward ratio. You had a very defined stop loss. So a lot of my trades, as another nugget aside, I will not trade if I cannot identify a stop loss, because like if you're shorting in the middle of this, like where if you were shorting like right here, like where where's your stop loss? If I don't know where my trade is invalidated, that's a very dangerous spot. Like right here, do I stop loss above the highs at like $20? Do I like where do I go? Do I stop loss right here? It's very hard to define. So let me. Does this short trade right here make sense to everybody? I don't know if I talked about this.
Yeah.
So yeah. So general chat pays too. I don't just troll in general chat. I actually give very good content. It's not just for memes. Although there's a lot of memes too.
Wait, so you got the overall range from a bigger time frame, right? Was it on a monthly?
So this local range that I got the short trade from, or the sell trade, was from this local range right here. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, and then you found a different golden pocket. It was for the lower, for the dump, right?
Yep. I'll go over that next.
Okay.
So as we made our way down, this daily close was another re-entry. I mean, look at this. So we shot right through and then we reclaimed it. So on a higher time frame, it would look like this daily got respected. We back tested this daily on the way up. Okay, so this would have been a nice long scalp. We eventually lost it, but this was the magic right here. On the way down, we back tested this major level and then we went back down. So this was a very nice short trade right here too, if this was missed. So in the future, I'll teach you guys how to look for these back tests. So, which leads us to where we are now. So, on a larger time frame, okay. So on a larger time frame, I pulled it from the lows to where we got supported from what is this, March 2021. So this is this overall range, right? So I pulled the fib from low to high, and this is the golden pocket right here. So so I explained this more in detail in my fib video, but the golden pocket is a very strong reversal point and a bear. You can call it a bear trap or a bull trap, right? So the golden pocket is a very large retrace with a high probability of reversing on a macro level. So one other thing that I found, I got to keep testing this too. So in Bitcoin, the golden pocket and the 886 play out very often. In gold, the golden pocket and the 786 are very, very, very common. So with that being said, look at this. We literally came down, touched the 618, back tested the weekly level, and this is definitely a respectable bounce from the top of the 618. So $14.2. So this is what I mean by a lot of bots and algos just blindly buy it. I mean, this initial bounce, this was a very quick, this all happened the first $1,000, 1,000 or 100 pips or whatever you want to call it, 1,000, 100, depending on your lot size, I guess. This happened very quick because this was the big golden pocket of the overall range. So a lot of bots and algos just blindly buy the heck out of this thing, producing the initial bounce. And then also I posted, where was this? The 786, right? So I was like, gold at the GP. Who says you can't make money from general trolling chat? And then look at this, 786. So this is what I was talking about with the 786 playing out so much in gold. So we're talking about this little bounce right here, right? So you had the initial bounce, came back, so in gold, if the golden pocket doesn't hold, look at this, where did it stop at? The 786, like to almost the absolute dollar, and this proceeded to take off for $12.48 on almost a 1% bounce. and then actually it came back, and this has a smaller bounce. So this bounce is looking a lot weaker. Let's see here. So locally, it's looking weaker, but I mean, no divergences really yet. Yeah, so this is no man's land. So on this hold of the weekly, this was a scalpable trade right here. So I got this question earlier, like, what targets should I be looking for a short, right? So I just want to address this real quick. So my philosophy is after a giant pump, I want to look for shorts, obviously in smart areas. And after a giant dump, I want to look for longs in smart areas, not just blindly. And here's why, right? If you look at the history of most assets, when you have a catastrophic dump or pump, okay, this was the little exception right here. This just kept going and going and going, right? But usually after a crazy dump or a pump, there's, after this, there was a relief bounce, right? After this, I mean, there was a huge bounce. After this, there was a relief bounce before continuing down. So usually when price trends really hard and you're at the support level, I wouldn't look for a shorting support. So here's the general rule of thumb, right? The quickest way to lose money is to buy into resistance and sell into support, right? If you think about this logically, like in the market, there's so much emotion that after price goes up so much, there's so much FOMO that people want to FOMO buy into a resistance level, right? Think about it. If I told you, right, I mean, of course, this is hindsight trading, but if I told you that the yearly level was a very, 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 very big resistance level, like, would you buy into big resistance? Probably not, right? But at the time, I can guarantee you the emotions were high and gold's going up and up and up and up. So a lot of people were FOMO buying into this, which is what the market makers need to fill their sell orders, right? And then down here too, like at the time, the yearly level is really, really strong support. I mean, from this order block too, right? But at the time, you're like, gold's crashing. Oh my God, it's crashing. It's all the way up at 1950 and now it's all the way down at 1640, right? The emotional thing to do would be like, let me panic sell because it's probably going to go down lower. But you're at very, very strong support. Like after this relief bounce, like, yeah, I can see putting in a sell order and seeing if it'll go lower. But if you start selling into these supports, like these supports, if you sell right here, that's the quickest way to lose money. Same with buying into strong resistance. That is the quickest way to lose money. So if there's any one takeaway nugget from today, is you want to buy the support and sell the resistance, which emotionally is very, very hard to do. Because as price is going down, you're fearful, right? And when price is going up, you're what's the word, exuberant. So that's one thing that you got to that you got to flip around, which is how on like just this scalp this morning, right? This is how we get these little sniper entries because people are like, oh my God, price is going up, new all-time highs, FOMO buying, exuberance. We're like, nope, we want to short it. So that's kind of but once you get your technicals down and you're confident, you just trade the plan, right? So does that make sense as to the drop and the little bounce right here? Does that kind of make sense, or was that all just big words?
No, yeah, it makes sense to me. I have a question on like the smaller time frame around like 15 minutes. It
Hmm.
actually came down and it touched the top of the golden pocket like twice now. Actually like almost three times. But what
This
so
is, by the way,
what
this is the weekly level. This is the golden pocket. It's touched the golden pocket once.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So essentially, if it comes down and touches the golden pocket one more time, we can still expect a bounce, right? Like, how many times does it touch before it like just plows through it?
So here's the thing, on support and resistance. The more time support gets, and this is actually a good transition into the support and resistance module. So the more times a support touches, or resistance touches and it produces a smaller bounce, the more that happens, the weaker that it gets. And here's why, right? If you have a support, what that means is there's buying interest at the support, which is why it's support, right? You have initial buying interest. If the bounces are getting smaller, that means your buying interest is waning, and the people interested in buying this level only have so much ammo, so to speak, right? They only have so much buying power. And once that, so if we start doing one of these, like, so this would be like up here, and the bounces are getting smaller, what that means is this support level, the buying interest is waning, right? Whereas if we do like one of these, so this is all context dependent, okay? So if we do one of these, like we came down, had this, and then we do one of these and just take off, that means the support is very strong and the next touch will probably hold. Does that make sense? Because this buying interest is obviously very high and it shot up, but if it starts doing smaller and smaller bounces, that means the buying interest is drying up. So
Okay, yeah, definitely. I mean, just by looking at it right now, it looks like it's doing the smaller bounces or on the verge of
yeah,
doing
unless
so.
this continues up. So this is 50-50 neutral territory.
Okay.
So if you're looking at this on a lower time frame, this was the initial time to buy on the initial 786, but once you found support on the weekly, you could long it or buy it back up, and then you just have your stop loss below these lows right here. So
Gotcha.
for future reference, so this was the initial trade, okay? We had the 786, and then when it came back and it cleared the weekly, this is your new trade because the weekly is theoretically a strong level. Who is giving me these huge stop losses? Okay, there we go. You just have your stop loss below these lows. So this is your new trade. Obviously, we're in no man's land right now. So, I mean, do what you want. This is not financial advice, but I wouldn't take any trade right here. This is just all neutral, no trade zone for me at least. So for future reference, this is your re-entry right here. And then if you wanted to put in a bigger sell order, what I would say is I would not get interested, and I posted this somewhere in the group. Okay. I would not get interested at least until the 1800 level for two reasons. Number one, that's the 382. So remember the 382 is continuation territory. So it could do one of these and continue lower. So I would not get interested in a sell until at least here. Plus you have this little SR flip because you got supported once, twice, but this was a weaker bounce, but it still was a support level. And you have that, or until the 0.5 where you had the daily and the 0.5. If it goes to the, I mean, if this was gonna be continuation, I would not look at this as a strong buy area, simply because remember this is on the more macro range 618. So if it clears the 0.5, this looks like a complete reversal, which is entirely possible. So we could be at a reversal zone. So on the flip
I
side
have
of
one
that,
more question.
okay, do I have this trade?
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
So if this price comes down to the wick of that was in the golden pocket,
Mm-hmm.
if it goes past it, does that essentially kind of breaking a line so it'll just keep continuing going down, or is it still, since it's in the golden pocket, it's kind of like fair game, it could test more into the golden pocket and then just keep going up?
Yeah. So this is what I would say, right? So full disclaimer right now, obviously I don't have a lot of data on gold because I've only been looking at this for less than a week. But if this is talking about my Bitcoin knowledge, it's very rare you'll get gold to stop exactly here, right? It's really rare to say, oh, this is the absolute low, and the market's not going to be like, oh, let me give to you another absolute low where everybody's buying. So what ends up happening, like at this high, so this becomes the high, it slightly breaks it, and then the next time around, it slightly front runs it. So like here too, it's slightly below. It almost never gives you like that exact same level. I mean, just looking at this too, right? You have this absolute low, and right here front runs it. It does not give you that exact low. Same with right here. It came up once, went a little bit lower. So I mean, just eyeballing this, I mean, gold does the same thing as Bitcoin. Oh, well, right here's the one exception, right? It came exactly to the dollar. But just overall looking at price action, if it like double tops or double bottoms, it doesn't like to give you the exact same price because that would be too easy to make money. Like right here, it's a little bit staggered, right? This one breaks this low a little bit. Call that a swing failure.
Okay, so it can front run it and then it can also just overshoot it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So this is what I mean. So technically you can look at this as a front run, right? Didn't quite get here. So you see this pattern a lot in Bitcoin. Where is it? You see this a lot where you come up to a low or a high, you come up again, slightly break it, you grab all that liquidity, and then you come up and then front run that again. So two scenarios I'd look for is, by the way, let me go over the psychology of why that happens, right? Because think about this. If you bought the 618, where's your stop loss? Probably like right here, right? So if you have a buy order and your stop loss is below here, when your stop loss triggers, it closes out your buy order with a sell order. So market makers know that if price comes down here, it's going to trigger a lot of sell orders to fill their buy orders. So you see, so I hope that's not getting too advanced, but this is my nerd brain talking right now. So you might see like this in bigger bounce, and you might see something like this for the liquidity grab, right? So you'll see it come down here, grab all the stop losses, and then come back. So the problem is you don't know where it's gonna, if it stops in the golden pocket, you don't know where it's gonna stop. But what you can look for is that pattern right up there where it does like this, where it comes down lower and it comes down not quite as low. So you can take this entry right here, because if it does this and it still holds support, this is a pretty safe bet that it's reversing. This is a very common reversal pattern in Bitcoin. Like you have, here, let me draw this out where there's no price action.
So essentially don't have a buy order right now. Wait for it to fully like retest it.
Yes. Yes, that's what I'm saying. So you see this, this is like the reverse middle finger pattern. You see this a lot in Bitcoin to where it makes the low, it makes the lower low, and then makes a higher low and takes off. Prime example. You make a low, you make a lower low, and then you make a higher low, which is right around this low, and you take off. So, mind-blowing stuff, huh? So, okay, so here's what I would do, right? If this comes down to the golden pocket and starts reversing, you can try catching it on the way up. That would be the best entry, but it would be the most dangerous entry because if it starts coming down and you think you catch it, it can just start coming down more, right? I mean, this is the golden pocket right here. This is a wide range. I mean, that's a $10 range because it's the overall golden pocket. So it's, I mean, pretty big price gap. So this is pretty dangerous. Is it possible that if it comes down here, it'll just take off like completely and just, go to the moon? Yes. But I mean, you can take this trade somewhere in here, but that's just your riskier trade. To whereas if it comes back down here again in this area, this is your much safer trade. Does that make sense?
Yes. So don't go deep into the golden pocket because that would be risky.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying don't do it,
Right.
but I mean, there's more reward and more upside to it. but it depends on your risk tolerance, right? Do you want to try to time the bottom, which I love doing all the time? So it's kind of hypocritical for me not to say don't take it, but at the same time, it's what's your risk tolerance? Just like I personally didn't long this because I'm personally waiting for lower, but if you're grabbing this long right here, right? Um, this is a pretty risky grab, but for me looking at the volume profiles, if I wanted to take this long, I could have grabbed it right here, but this was your much safer entry. But at the same time, could this have just taken off? Yes, of course. So,
Right.
so
Really quick, what would be a stop loss? So if we were to look into getting in on a buy at the retest of like the golden pocket again, the very
mhm.
top of it, would you put stop loss at the end of the golden pocket or a little bit after it?
If it does this and it comes down and you buy right here, your stop loss is below this low.
Okay.
So wherever this stops and you come back and buy the retrace support, your stop loss is below the low.
Thank you.
I mean, it's up to you, right? If that's too wide, then you have to adjust your risk accordingly. But, if account size wasn't an issue, that's what I would do.
Gracias.
Okay. So, any questions on where we're at with gold, or are we ready to have a quick session on finding these support and resistances?
Hey, Mike, I got a question.
Yeah.
What's going on with this Mercius guy?
Dude, all I know is I called a short trade and he dumped the market and made me look really good.
So how'd this guy even find you?
I don't know, but I knew that he was a Bitcoin whale in our group and he was kind of controlling the market whichever way we wanted to go. But I think he's also a gold whale. I
Really?
mean, what do you think?
Dude, I don't really know. I don't really know, dude. I just saw him come in and make a couple calls and say a couple things, and it was just dead on to everything in the market. And you just caught the trades like super well, and it just correlated. And I was kind of wondering if like you had insider ties with him or knew anything that was going on, or
Well, I think he knows Elon Musk, but for the sake of time, we'll talk about it on another episode because we have to get through this and we're about like an hour in. So,
all right.
but just know that sometimes when I give a call, we have like a big whale backing us. So
That's
it might be a market maker. That could be it.
all right. Well, anyways, continue on.
All right. So this is how I find support and resistance, right? If you guys see in my trades, a lot of the times I will identify the support and resistance before it hits. Like here's your traditional support and resistance, right? Like you have a region, okay? And price comes down to it. And then you're like, okay, that's support. So I think everybody understands that, right? The problem is usually when price comes down to it, it doesn't come down quite as much the second time, so you don't get the most optimal entry. Or sometimes it'll just smash through the second time because it wasn't that strong support. So this is a method that I use in conjunction with other factors like fibs to identify support and resistance before they happen, right? So as I mentioned, the whole premise of this is, there's big market makers like Mercius, and a lot of the times for their bots or for their trades, when like when you look at an order book, right? Trades are fluctuating all the time, and like there's tens of millions or like billions of dollars just like coming in and out of the order books. Like most of the big players are not doing that by hand, right? You need a bot to be able to fluctuate orders like that. So bots are programmed to, a lot of them, to respect Fibonacci and respect closes, right? So if you know that bots and algos control the market, the biggest way to win trades is to identify what their next move is. So I hope that makes sense, right? So like if you know the big players are controlling the market, it's not a good idea to go against them. So it's not a good idea to go against Mercius, right? It's a good idea to figure out what they're doing, or you don't know if it's 100% probability, right? But you want to figure out the high probability scenarios on what you think they're going to do next. So closes are a huge buying and selling target for just blindly for bots to buy and sell, right? Oh man. So the person that just texted me, I'll answer that later. But that was a funny question. Okay, so you start with the higher time frames and you go to the lower time frames, right? So just like in anything, higher time frames are respected more than lower time frames. But higher time frames sometimes take longer to play out, right? So this is what I do. I take the ray and you start looking for closes. So these are the closes I look for where there's a green candle and a red candle back to back, or a red candle and a green candle back to back. So you can use the magnet tool to get on here. Do I have that template? Okay. So if you guys look, this is the 12 months, so this is the year, right? So you start marking these out yearly. Okay, that's your yearly level. So this right here could work, but I would not use it because this is not like a red and green back to back, right? So this would be one right here. I need to make a template. So I don't have a template because these do not, you almost never get these in Bitcoin because Bitcoin just goes up only apparently. Okay. Okay, so green, red, a good one. Not a good one, red, red. So green, 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 not using them. Not saying they won't work out, but it's not a high probability bot and algo target. So red, green, using it. Green, green, not using it. This one I don't want to use because you have this one right here so close to it. So I use the red, green right here. So green, green, we're not using. Green, red, we're using. Does this make sense so far? These are your yearly closes.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so let's just go over yearly closes and then zoom in and see how they played out. Okay, you have this yearly close back here. Okay, so prices coming down, you have yearly close. This is untapped, so this is a huge support level if we ever come down. This is untapped, huge support level if we come down. So remember, this yearly level comes up. Look at this. Initial reaction. Okay, you have a 6% move, initial reaction. Secondary reaction. You have a 14% move. Now eventually this breaks it, and you even have another reaction right here. So eventually this breaks it, but I would say that if you got a 6% trade and a 14% trade, I mean, that's insane. I mean, insane amount of pips, right? This, if you just blindly shorted or blindly sold the yearly back in 2020, insane trade. Okay. Now so look how amazing this is. This is support resistance, right? So what do we know about SRs? If something is a resistance, it becomes support, right? So that part does not change about these levels. And look at this, support, 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 takes off. So your huge resistance, flip support, it gave you 3 chances to buy the back test, and it just took off to where if you blindly bought the yearly support, this is a 24% pump for some crazy amount of pips right here. So hope you guys are seeing the power of this. Look at this. And this is how you judge how strong is support and resistance, right? Even though this touched it, remember I was talking about you have to judge the reaction. A 24% bounce, I would say, is a very, very strong reaction. So you know this is a strong support. So if you bought the support a second time, you got a 5% trade. And then you got from yearly to yearly another 13% trade. So think about how powerful that is. Okay. So, and then you come down. So this broke the yearly level, but because it's a yearly, I would not classify this as broken. And it comes down, does the pattern where it goes high, higher high, lower high. And look at this. The yearly caught the top of this pump too. I mean, there was other sign too. It was a distribution top. But look at this. So far, it's come down another 7%. I mean, that's absolutely enormous. And look at that. We're getting a bounce. So not bad. Weekly levels. So far so good. Is this mind blowing or what? So for the people that haven't seen this before, is this some mind blowing stuff?
I mean, I've seen it before and it still blows my mind. So
Yeah. So like if you identify this as support and it comes out a second time and you identify it as support, like could you have won the trade? Absolutely. But now you know this ahead of time, you would have won 2 trades by the time that other people identify have won 1 trade. Okay. So that's the yearly. And pro tip, if you go here, you can make folders. So you go highlight all these. Okay. And now you can hide them. This is how you declutter your chart. Pro tip. Okay. Now we go to the monthlies. So same thing. You go here. So this is a green red monthly. Okay. This is a green green. So I would technically not use this, although as you can see it worked out. So it does work out sometimes, but I would rather go with a higher probability trade, and I'd be okay with missing low probability trades all the time because there's always higher probabilities around the corner. Okay. So I know this is kind of fast, but stop me if this is not making sense. So all these I've selected are, if you can tell, are green reds. And this one, I chose the bottom of this one because this top one, technically it got broken on the way up, so I don't quite like it as much. This one was untapped. And once it did get tapped, it showed a strong support. But I mean, just look at this, right? You had this massive pump right here, and this was a monthly level. It caught the low of this dump right here, and then it continued back up. So just eyeballing it, you can see how powerful these levels are. Okay, so let's zoom in. Okay, this monthly level, where to close? September. Okay, so this one I would categorize as untapped because this was the August to September one, so it hasn't been tapped. Look at this. This monthly level right here, along with the yearly level, and this is how you knew it was super strong, right? There was a yearly close and a monthly level all catching this right here. There's a monthly level down here, so that'll be pretty strong. And look at this monthly level. So gave you a massive trade if you just blindly bought it once, twice, boom, take off. Okay. So far, respected very well. I know I misspelled that, but for time's sake, don't care. Okay, weeklies. Are you guys surprised that, so this is what I talk about confluence, right? We had the 618 plus the weekly, and this caught this massive candle right here. Like, are you guys surprised? Okay, we have that.
You're doing the fib after this?
Yeah.
Sweet.
So this is mostly covering how to pull these daily, weekly, monthly levels. Okay. Look at this one. This weekly close, Price came all the way down, came back up, and then caught the price right there. So this one I will classify as tapped already, but just for example's sake, the initial tap produced a 4% bounce. It's not bad at all. But now that, you know, it's, I mean, on the way up too, it produced a little bounce, but now it's just been, you know, blown through a couple of times. It's, you know, it's not being respected very well. And look at this one. So I would not leave this on my chart now, but at the time you had this little low, caught it, had this little pump, had a secondary bounce, and then eventually came down. So all these levels, and look at this, caught it to the T right here, even this one, right? To the absolute dollar, like insane. And you have this one all the way up here. There's a lot of strong resistance up there if we ever get up there.
Wouldn't the weekly one be considered tapped already? Because
Which one?
okay, it is at the 1898.
This one?
Yeah, because those candles right there went through it. So isn't that considered tapped?
Yeah, I would consider this as tapped. However, comma, because this one is on a weekly level, it did go through it, but ultimately it was part of the reversal. So I would expect that this has a bounce the second time. But
Gotcha.
I mean, since these are so close, you can make the argument that you can take that one off the chart.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
it could work both ways. I mean, everything's in probability. So, but look at this one too. Came down, caught it to the absolute dollar. So everything works in probability. So you can make an argument for both scenarios. So, I mean, look at this. This weekly right here, which also line up with the yearly extra confluence. Caught the low, boom. This one right here was a little bit, yeah, I would take that one off. So they don't always work, but this one, okay, came down again, caught the low, boom. So, and then we have our dailies. So is this making sense to you guys?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Pretty mind-blowing, huh? You find the support and resistances before they happen.
It's just so a different approach because when we're taught support and resistance, it's like, okay, find where price hits the most, and that's your support and that's your resistance. But this is like, well, if it's already tapped, then don't mark it. So it's a little bit backwards.
Yeah. Well, this is a method of showing you where price is going to hit before it hits. So what I'm showing you guys is a lot of it is, I mean, of course, if price starts doing this, this is a support zone 100%. But with my method, you would have found it before, you know, the common method finds it, so to speak.
Gotcha.
So, all right, let's look at the daily levels. This one, I would say held pretty well. This one, look at this, tapped this to the dollar, reversed, came back down, pretty much back tested it, and then came back down. This daily level, unfortunately, did not get respected at first, but when it did come back, it did respect it. Came back for this, gave you a perfect back test and back down. So, and again, daily levels aren't as strong, so keep that in mind. But as you can see, they do play a huge role in here as well. And there's a lot of dailies I did not mark because a lot of them just got blown through already. So, and again, daily levels aren't as strong as some of the weeklies and monthlies. And then you can go into like 12-hour or 4-hour levels if you're scalping. It's just going to take a lot of time. So, okay. So let me go. I will use the bathroom and I'll come back and wrap this up with final thoughts. Bitcoin might be hitting our sell zone. Hold on. I did not pause the recording. Okay, so before I go into final thoughts about next gold buy or sell targets, do we have any? So the main point of this was to practice how to find these yearly, weekly, daily, and monthly support and resistance levels. Is there any question on how I pulled them or where I pulled them from?
No, not for me.
Okay. So I hope that's very clear. And as you guys can see, it's a very powerful tool. So coming back here. Okay. If we form a lower high right here, or anywhere, okay, so if we form a lower high anywhere below this point, I would say you probably have a 70% chance of, sorry, Bitcoin is a little distracting me right now. So you have if we form a lower high anywhere in here, you have a 70% chance that it's going to come back and test somewhere in this zone. But if this blasts through, then you got to wait a little bit longer. So keep an eye on this, because if we form a lower high right here, we're going to have some bearish divergence on the 15-minute time frame. So on a larger time frame, this might take a while to play out, because it is hold on. Wait a minute. Can you guys still see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Must be the OBS. So I don't know my technology. Okay. So on a larger time frame, this is what I said earlier, right? So you guys should, I mean, you shouldn't do anything, but if I were you, I would look for, personally, I would look for longs down here, because you're at such a big support area. Selling into support, in my opinion, is never a good idea, ever. So with that being said, I don't know, whatever. Okay. So this is a huge, buy zone right here, because it is the golden pocket. But if we break it, I would like this area much, much better. This could be a long-term reversal trade, right? You have your point of control of this whole entire range. You have a daily down here. You have your 786 down here, which in gold is a very, very high probability target. And this could be your new all-time high reversal right here, if you're gonna get all-time highs.
And that's actually in the Discord, I believe.
That is in the Discord, yeah.
So I have a question, and this might be a video for next time, or if you want to get into it, like a brief, like 10-minute. But so I understand marking up the monthly, weekly, dailies, and I can say Carolina does too. Our thing we're kind of struggling with is after we pull fibs, sometimes we're like, okay, we have our things marked up, we have our fib, but still there's kind of a little block of like, shoot, what's price doing next? So do you have a way to walk through that, or is this something that we can
yeah, this is more on a strategy video, but I'll go over the short end of it, right? So also one quick thing about pulling fibs. So this is the golden pocket of the overall range. This was a major low, so you this was the 886 and also the golden of this range and the golden pocket of this range, right? So there are different pulls for, like, if you're looking at local ranges, but obviously overall range is much stronger than a local range, but look at this, the golden pocket of the local range bounce too, right? So here's the thing, before you learn a lot of like volume profiles or like Stokes or RSI divergences, it's very hard to tell if price is going to go up or down, right? Most people, nobody knows for sure if price is going up or down, right? You can only have probabilities. But what I would say is, before you're like super experienced, what you want to do is you want to find areas of big confluence. So what that is multiple things in one area, right? So like here you have a weekly and you have your golden pocket. Like here you have your yearly, and there was like a monthly and a weekly all up here. Here was your golden pocket and your local point of control as support, right? So you don't necessarily know what price is going to do next, but like if you look at the chat, I always have the next long trade and I always have the next short trade, right? So you have your buy trade and your sell trade ready. So what you're saying is, I don't know 100% what price is going to do, but if price goes up to my targets, I know what I'm going to do. If price comes down to my targets, I know what I'm going to do. So that way you have a trade ready for both sides, and you're not betting on price going one direction to have a winning trade, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
Hey, Mike,
yeah,
your screen is like super blurry. It has been for the last like 5 minutes. I just didn't want to interrupt you.
oh, okay. It's because I stopped sharing somehow. Yeah, but I mean we're about to wrap it up. Yeah, I think I stopped sharing on Zoom and it's on my OBS now. So
Oh, gotcha.
yeah, appreciate it though. Um, yeah, so that's the short end of it. I'll make a whole video on this at some point, but it's all about having a plan, right? So like if you look at currently in here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know why this is here. 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, there's a lot of active entries. Some are swings and some are scalps. So I'm always looking, like 95% of trading is really doing your analysis and planning, and like 5% is, oh my God, price finally hit my price target, and I'm going to trade it. So the best way to always be prepared is, I would say, have your next buy trade and sell trade ready and set alerts, and you know exactly what you're going to do when price hits it, right? Because let's say if you only have a buy trade and price keeps going up and up and up and up, well, I mean, sells wouldn't work either, but if you have a buy trade and then price is ranging above your buy trade and it never hits it, and you could have had some sell scalps or even swings, you know, it's you're going to be waiting forever for a trade, right? Same thing if you only have a sell trade. So I would recommend start by planning out one trade to both sides, and then gradually as you evolve, you'll have a scalp trade, a buy scalp ready, a sell scalp ready, and you'll have a buy swing ready and a sell swing ready as well. So, and then eventually you'll have like all these different scenarios. Like if price for Bitcoin right now, if it comes down to 36.8, I know what I'm going to do. If it comes down to 35.8, I know what I'm going to do. If it comes down to 32, I know what I'm going to do. If it comes down to 30, I know what I'm going to do. If it goes up to 43, I have a plan. If it goes up to 40, I have a plan. If it goes up to 48, I have a plan. So, you know, I'm literally just trying to plan out all the next steps. So I'm not like, if price does something, I'm not like surprised and like, oh shoot, what am I gonna do now? If that makes sense.
Hey, Mike, I gotta hop off, but thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're about to actually wrap up this call too. So hope you guys enjoyed, and if you want more practice, watch this one back, and it's a very, very powerful technique. So
amazing. Thank you, Mike.
All right, later, guys.
Bye.